After being in the works for years, Notion officially launched their brand new calendar today. I am so excited that I got the opportunity to spend the entire week working on it before launch, so I was able to give you guys how I've been using it and a full tutorial walkthrough of how I recommend setting it up. So let's go a little backstory on how this came to be. So Notion purchased the app Cron back in 2022, and there hasn't been any updates in that whole time. And the whole time that since they purchased it, they have been working on rebranding it as Notion Calendar. So what this does is it's actually a standalone app that's separate from the Notion platform. And what it does is it's actually synced with Notion. So what I would recommend, and what I think they're trying to get you to do, is to use this as your main calendar. You can import things from Google, but you can also incorporate your Notion databases. So it's kind of a catch-all of all the things that are happening in multiple platforms. So I want to walk through today how to set it up, how it works, and then also I really want to focus on how I've been using it and how it works with my template. If you have purchased my template in the past, the ADHD Life Tracker, it will have some updates based off of things that have changed with this calendar. So if you want to re-download it, you can, or if you haven't purchased it, you can get that below. It's also part of our Notion Foundations bundle. So first of all, I'll give a little bit of my thoughts. I think this is a really cool tool. It's what a lot of people have been wanting from Notion, is a better calendar system. For example, having a day view is amazing. There's a lot of really cool features. It's a little bit complicated the first time you use it, just like anything with Notion. It is a learning curve, so you do have to spend some time working on it. I'm still learning. I've been using it for a week, and there's still little things I keep finding here and there. Again, it's going to be overwhelming at first, but my hope is I want to simplify it and make it as easy as possible for you to get started working on this. So let's just head over to my computer. I'm going to walk through a few different parts of, again, how it works, what I recommend, and the different databases that I would recommend bringing into the Notion calendar. So let's head into it. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe, and more videos about Notion soon. I also am launching a couple of really cool things below. So depending on when you're watching this, make sure to click down below to learn more. Okay, so I just want to let everyone know I am using the beta, the preview version, so it might not be exactly the same as the live Notion calendar, but I did want to walk you through how to find it. So over here it says calendar. This should be, I believe, how that you get to that. And it will say open Notion calendar. Now it's going to open it in a browser if you haven't downloaded it before. So I'm going to show you guys here on the screen what will happen when you do have that pop up, because I've already downloaded it. Basically all you do is you're going to replace this. I would delete Cron if you already have it and then re-download this. And then basically it's going to pop up and it's going to give you 5 different options. These are the 5 different options that you're going to have. Okay, so over on the right-hand side of the calendar, once you download it, again, it's just downloading a calendar. It'll say, welcome to Notion Calendar, get set up in 5 easy ways. You download the desktop app, step 1. Step 2, you're gonna turn on event notifications. So this will alert you when an event is happening. 3, you're going to set up your calendar accounts. So you're going to connect this to, it is only right now with Gmail. So one thing to note is you can set up multiple Gmail accounts, just like you can with ical. So you can have multiple Google calendars. I have decided only to do like 2. I have multiple. And so just the main ones would be the ones you want to connect. Then you're going to connect it to your Notion workspace. So this is the main workspace that you want this calendar connected to. I believe you can only do 1. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that. And then you can open and show the Notion database. So this is really the first things that you have to set up. It's pretty easy. It's just plug and play. You just select which one you want. Then let's move into walking through what the calendar looks like and how to set it up. And I'm so excited for you guys to see it. Okay, so this is mine. It's already been set up, and I wanted to walk through specifically how this works from kind of a layout perspective. Then we're going to walk through how to use it, and then also the last part is going to be how I recommend using it with either my template or setting it up for yourself. So, all right, so over on the left-hand side, I'm just going to go left to right. So over here, you see that we have multiple different calendars here. This is the default calendar. We also have a secondary calendar. On here, this is my actual main calendar that I use for events, and so I have an events label that I am going to use for all external events that I'm going to, things I'm actually attending, things that are actually on my calendar. Maybe if I sign up for something on Eventbrite, all of that's going to be in red because that includes like context and that sort of thing. Then down here, you have all of your Notion databases that have calendars in them. So what you can do is when it first launches, I think it will give you like a couple of ones that you've used recently or most often that have a calendar. But what you can do is you can actually go over here, click Add Notion Database. You can actually search for different Notion databases that have calendars in them. So let me just get rid of one and I'll show you an example. So if I wanted to get rid of them, I would remove this calendar from the list. You can also change the color. So I've changed them to the colors based off of my 13 pillar system, which you can learn about on my channel. So if I wanted to add that daily journal, so I type in daily journal. Let's see if that pops up. So that now gets added. I will say, you can see then it adds all of those entries here. So I have these right now as all day events. You could change these and have them be at 8 o'clock every day. So if I wanted to change this, it picks a random time. So I could set this up to be at a certain time. I can also make it longer. If I wanted to actually turn that journal time into a scheduled time that I journal, that's also another option. The one thing I love about this is it actually now turns my to-do list into calendarized or documented time on things. So that's really cool. So that's basically how you would set up adding all the calendars. And I will walk through at the end which calendars I recommend putting on here. All right, before we move over to the middle section and then to the right, I did want to mention this is something that was also available in Cron, is you can also see here what you should be doing right now. So I'm filming and editing the video about Notion Calendar. That's what I'm doing right now. And so I wanted to share that with you guys because that is something that I liked about Cron as well. So they kept that. All right, so moving down to the calendar, you'll see it actually starts off in the UTC time zone. So one of the first things you have to do is set up your time zone. So, because right now it would be 4 p.m., but it's actually 10 a.m. here. So what I would do is I would add a time zone and you can search for your city. I'm in Central Standard Time, so I just selected that. I could add, for example, if I wanted to add Pacific, then you see here, I believe you can move these around. Yeah, so you can move them and it just shows the time. I don't need that. That's great if you're on a team and you have people in multiple time zones, which I don't think exists on any other calendar. So then we've got the actual calendar. You can see here, you can actually turn things on and off. So I can turn this, so if I don't want to see that, this is like my content calendar, things that are coming out, I can turn that on and off. So I can literally turn anything on and off. If I want my external events turned off, I can turn that off. So again, just like ical or any other calendar tool. You can see here I have different colors and you can kind of see that they're based on the different databases. So again, the red ones are my external events from my Google Calendar. And I will say you can only add events to your Google Calendar if you do them in this area. So if I added a new event, example event, let's just show you guys how to do this. It would have to be inside of this in order for it to show up on a Google Calendar. You can attach documents and links from Notion to that, but it's not going to show up on your Notion calendar, if that makes sense. You would have to create a duplicate. So if I wanted to duplicate this and make this a Notion event, let's just say this is a contact meeting, then it would show up on Notion. And we can show you that when I go back to Notion. So now it's inside of the contacts and meetings database. So you can see here, it works just like a normal calendar would, but it's also now linked to the Notion database. I'll show you guys that after we finish this tour. I'll show you how it connects to Notion. So you can see here, there's different views. We've got day view, which is great. It's a new thing. We've got week view. We've also got month view. I don't like month view very much, but it's nice to see it kind of in general, but I just have so many daily things that it just becomes annoying. You can click today, that jumps you back to today. Let's go to week actually. So if you click out and see there's no upcoming meeting, there's a share availability. This is actually for the scheduling part of Notion Calendar, which we can walk through. You can also create a quick meeting. So this is great if you have team members on a Notion, or I believe you can invite them if they're not on Notion. So this is a great part about this calendar is it's great for teams. I also wanted to mention that there are some shortcuts. So if you click Command K on a Mac, there are some options. So you can see here, so S is a shortcut, F is a shortcut, O, you can see all the different ones. So you've got create event, go to date, go to today. So one of the things that you may want to look at is knowing what some of the shortcuts are, especially if you're kind of a power user. One thing I wanted to show you guys is how to create event. So again, you can either do it this way, or you can do it by just clicking on a time and starting an event. So let's just give an example event. Let's just do this today. So one thing to think is you can choose to have it either as a time or an all-day event. You can select the time zone, and one thing that's really cool is that you can repeat it. So let's say it's every week on Monday, it's gonna now repeat every week, which is great. You can also add participants. So I could search, let me just look up let me just do myself. So if I had like another person, that gets added to their calendar and it says that I accepted. You can also add things like conferencing, Google Meet, Google Calendar, Zoom or Zoom Calendar. I actually have a specific Zoom link that I send to people, or a physical location, or here's where you can add documents. So if I wanted to, I could search, I believe in my workspace. Let me search. Let's just do, there we go. So if I had like a proposal for someone, this is somebody I work for, I could add that into the event so then everyone gets that link. I hope that makes sense. You can set up reminders. There's lots of things you can do for an event. So you'll see because I added this now, the next day the next week, it is now there. So I have put this inside of my default calendar, but I'm going to move it to events. And you can see that then this is my email for that. And there's lots of different things. You can see all the different people. So you can send them an email from here, mark optional. There's lots of ways to do this. So that is really how you would create an event, and you can delete that. So that's really the basics of how to use the calendar as a calendar. I want to talk a little bit about my strategy of how I use this with Notion and how you kind of sync it back and forth, because this is going to be the biggest change that they did not have with Cron. And there's a lot to it, but I think it'll make sense as we go. So let's talk about strategy when it comes to using Notion with the calendars. Now you can bring multiple calendars from different databases into Notion Calendar as kind of a main calendar hub, which is so important because for a long time, it's like you'd have calendars for every database, but none of them would talk to each other, which is what I think a lot of people wanted, a central spot to see everything. So this is really a solution for that. So if you go to my Notion, there are a few different databases that have calendars that are actually very, very important to me. The main ones are my content calendar, my business projects, my actual events, which is like meetings with clients or things happening out in the world, and my to-do list. I would say those are the main ones. The other two that I also have in there are my daily life tracker. So that's like checking off my daily stuff. I've got my journaling and I've got my meal planning. So the meal planning one, I'm still trying to figure out how to make it work in Notion without having a million different pages. So I'm still working on that. I might have a follow-up video, but the other ones I've really settled down on what I want in this Notion calendar. So let's walk through each different category. So the first one that we have is content calendar. So you can see them all here in blue. So these are all things that are being published. So for example, I have something called my Chats and Chai. It's a weekly show that I do. So I have that episode coming out. Now, if I wanted to find that in Notion, I have added it to that Notion calendar. I would click open in Notion. Now you do have to set it up. It's going to bring it into Chrome before jumping back to Notion because I have set it up so that I open all of my stuff in the desktop version. It just takes a second to load. That is one thing that I wish was a little bit faster, was just the instant back to Notion. So you'll see that it's actually within my content calendar plan. So if I go back a step, you will see that I have a calendar for my content creation. So here you can see it is like a TikTok reel or short. For this, I haven't set that up. So let's decide on what this is. This is an email. So you can see it right from here. Okay, this is the stuff that I'm promoting this week. And you can see it in table view that I have it all in January. So let's move this down here. So you can see here that I have more information about each of the things. One of the things I have over here is what it's promoting. A TikTok that I made about the calendar is promoting my YouTube channel. For example, my Chats and Chai video is promoting my group coaching, etc., etc. Here I have the publish date. And then I also have a link to the actual database that it's part of. So you'll see that I have about 5 or 6. I've got YouTube, the specific Instagram, this specific short form content, email, and that specific series, which is called Chats and Chai. So you'll see here that I'm linking it to that here. And then I have different things that I'm doing. So I have, for example, I'm going to be emailing my newsletter on the 17th about the Notion calendar. So I'm planning that here within this database called the January 17th email. So if I open up this thing, it will actually allow me to have the actual database that is about email marketing, and I can write out and plan my email. I hope that makes sense. I basically have a central spot for all of my content calendar, which also can be viewed in a calendar, but they also have related databases to each individual type. So I've got one for TikTok and Reels, I've got one for emails, I've got one for YouTube. So for example, I actually published this video last week, so I need to change that. I can also change the status to it's published. So you can see here that I can change that. And when I do that on my calendar, it also gets changed. It might take a second to load, but it should pop up. You see right there. So it is exactly what's happening on Notion in that database shows up on this central calendar. I hope that makes sense. So this is going to be really, really helpful for me as I'm planning when I'm going to be posting things on my calendar. So that's content calendar. The next one that I have is my tag and knowledge vault. Now this is really where I have a lot of business projects. So it's not so much to-do list, it's more about like when things are happening when I'm working on a project. So for example, tomorrow I'm doing a walk and talk group. So I actually have that as part of the database. So if I open in Notion, again, it pops over to Chrome, but then it pops over to Notion and adds another calendar. So I'll show you guys how this works. So you've probably seen me talk a lot about my tag and knowledge vault, but I have recently decided that I wanted to use it more as a calendar. I never really had a calendar for the tag and knowledge vault because I mostly just use it in list and table view. But now you can see in calendar that I have different projects and things. So for example, this walk and talk group, which you can find if you go to business projects and then you go to, I believe it's action items, current projects, and then it's events, and then events. So it's like down a ways, but you can see that this is actually an event that I'm doing. You can see it where it is on the calendar. So if I have any information about that, I can put that inside of the calendar. So that's really how I use it for tag and knowledge vault. So this is for like actual things, coaching programs, anything I'm doing to promote something. And that's really why I've used the tag and knowledge vault in business projects for the calendar. I wouldn't say that I'm going to use it a lot because I feel like it's actually better to use the to-do list more so than the tag and knowledge vault, but I do have this embedded in the calendar. All right, so if we go back to the calendar, the biggest one I think that's going to be helpful for most people is combining it with your to-do list. So here is my to-do list. Let's head over to Notion and I'll show you guys exactly how to do this. So this one is probably going to be the most helpful because a lot of people have a to-do list, but they don't actually have it put on their calendar when they're going to do the thing on their to-do list. So if we go to my to-do list, it's actually easy to make new items for my to-do list. So one of the things that happened when I was in my calendar is I kept adding things. Okay, I got to do this. Here's the time that I'm doing it at. You can see last week I had like go grocery shopping, call so-and-so, edit video for Andrew. Like that was things on my to-do list. And now I can see it in calendar form. And when I added them on the calendar, it also added them here to my to-do list. Now I can go through and move these to different, sections. So for example, finish editing Notion template for Wednesday. That is going to be probably under business projects. So I'm going to move that there and then I can move it up here. So that doesn't change anything on the calendar. You don't see any changes with that, but it helps me if I want to see it in table view. So I could even add statuses for all that. So if I wanted to show the status in this calendar, you can, let's add the property of status. So now you can see where it's at. So for example, I went grocery shopping, so that's now complete. So you can do it in this calendar. Unfortunately, as of now, you can't add any additional information into that. So I couldn't go back to here and see that I did the grocery shopping. It doesn't show the status, which is one thing that I wish that they could change. I would say that's my biggest issue with the calendar, is I wish I could see more of the properties like I can on Notion, because I would like to see if it got finished or not. So you can see here, if I could just think of a random, to do, I can just add it into my calendar. I could say upload Pinterest pins. Let's just give an example. So that would be under my to-do list. So I would change it to my to-do database. And now if I go back to Notion, you will see that it gets added here. It also gets added to the to-do list right here. Right? So it's super, super easy to go back and forth between the two, adding different things that you need to do. So that's why I recommend having your to-do list synced with this calendar as one of the main things that you do. So for contacts and meetings, this is the one that I've kind of recently decided I probably won't be doing as much of, just because I put a lot of those in external events. I use different CRM softwares that link me to people's emails. So I'm probably just going to stick with this for events and probably not use this. But I have added it here if I needed it. All right, and then the last couple ones that I wanted to share is for the daily life tracker. What I've done is I've just kept them up top. So it's an easy way to access. So for example, if I wanted to click into this, it doesn't show anything, but it allows me to open it quickly in Notion. So if I click on open in Notion, it will go to today's date and it will open up that specific date for my daily habit and life tracker. So let's see, it takes a second. This is, again, one of my biggest issues is the timing. I wish it was a little faster. So now you'll see January 15th, I can go through and I can do the daily updates. So that's something that I can do, again, back in Notion. It's a very, very quick, almost shortcut to that day's information. I do the same thing with other things. So for the meal planning, I would do the same thing. I'd open that in Notion. And it can go back and I can go through and I can plan my day. I'm still, again, trying to figure this out for if I could do it where I do actually put it on the calendar and then I have a specific meal. Not sure yet because I haven't figured out exactly the best solution for this, just because, again, it would make up a ton. So instead what I'm doing is I could have a place to select. So for example, if I wanted to select my breakfast for today, let's do oatmeal. It doesn't really show up in the calendar. So that's the other thing too, is like I'm trying to figure out if I like make multiple published dates. So I could have like, I could maybe make like a breakfast calendar, a lunch calendar, and a dinner calendar. That could actually be what I do, but I would have to like name each day. So I'm still trying to figure that out for the Notion calendar and seeing my meal plan. That is coming soon. I just wanted to mention that it is something I've been thinking about. All right, and then the last one is my daily journal. So this is something that you could also just use almost as like a shortcut. So you can see here that I moved that to this time. So if I wanted to, I could open that up here. And then again, it goes and opens it up in Notion. And I can see today's date for my my journal. So if I wanted to actually journal for today, not sure why it's taking so long. I think this is a really great way to utilize the Notion calendar. So it's a kind of a shortcut. So this is tomorrow's calendar, but you can see here I can add, information, whatever I want to the calendar, or sorry, to the journal. I can start journaling down there. So that is honestly how I use the Notion calendar. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. I am going to be doing more trainings, I'm sure, on this as people get used to using it. But that is kind of a quick walkthrough of how I use it, and you should definitely check it out. It is free, I believe, as of now. I'm not sure if there's going to be a price to this, but for me, I've had it for the last week, and it's been very, very helpful to sort of just understand and wrap my head around how to use this calendar. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to follow me, join our Facebook groups, join everything. I'm going to be teaching so much more Notion this year, you guys, so I'm really excited. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon.